So actually doing this analysis on Sunday this week, starting off with the most ready pair, which is AUD NZD for a potential counter trend trade. You can see up here I've already written out the confluences, and for me I take a 70% trade. So you can see we've got 30, 40, 50, 55, and then the lower time frame shift of structure will be an extra 10 plus the entry signal another 10. So it'll be 75 for me to take this counter trend trade for, you can see we're overall bullish, all right? I'm going to break this shit down. We're overall bullish, and the minor structure was bearish to create this overall pullback, okay? Then we shifted that minor structure, coming a break in this lower high, and we've just seen price push up, a big push up. You could consider this a pullback, but we've seen a big push. It didn't really have too much of a pullback like this. This was more of a breather, and then price carried on pushing with the EMA pushing it up. So we saw price push all the way up, 1 to 3 weeks of dojis, followed by an engulf candle forming a beautiful evening star on the weekly. And obviously, evening star, bullish reversal. So we have a bullish reversal pattern, plus we've just had a big impulse. So these two things already are making me think, okay, we might see the weekly start to pull back now. And obviously on the weekly, that's just going to be something like this, which can come back then to retest this potential EMA, weekly area of interest, previous support and resistance. As you can see, it's been a strong area, so this area alone is a magnet for price. Mixing that with an EMA coming into here to potentially create a higher low for this overall bullish push. So that's just the confluences of why I'm looking to come short on the weekly. Obviously none of those we actually put as a grade to our trade, but I'm forming my bias. So now when I come down to the daily, I understand that the weekly is bearish, pulling back. It's a weekly pullback I'm looking for. So I want to go down to the daily to find my entries and areas of interest. So we can see that we were bullish. We were bullish here. We've shifted structure, creating a left head, right shoulder. We've seen a beautiful shift down to the EMA, where it found some support to push back up and retest this previous elbow slash the neckline. And now we've pulled up. We've just had a bit of an iffy, but an engulf candle, as you can see, at this previous strong area of support. And if I extend this left, you'll be able to see that price also respected this area. Respect this area, major resistance, 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 support. You can see price has respected this area when we're above, and it's respected this area when we've been below. So mixing this head and shoulders pattern, indicating the daily turning bearish for a weekly pullback, in confluence with a weekly reversal pattern. So we have the weekly indicating bearish momentum. We have the daily indicating sellers are going to step in also. So now we have both of these, plus we have a potential lower high for the daily to sell at the retest of our area of interest. Now we come down to the 4 hour, and we can, what can we see on the 4 hour? Well, price was bearish coming down here. It then shifted to bullish, and then it shifted back to bearish, creating, if you spot that, left head, right shoulder, the right shoulder breaking. So now we're pulling back up. We're expecting, or we're waiting for the weekly to give us the weekly wick, tapping into this EMA to then take our trade short. Obviously we would ideally want it to stay bearish, with this just coming down like that, seeing a little wick, and then a big, not big, but a push off like that. So if if that does all happen, you'll see we'll ideally have this on Monday. So we have a little bit of a wick on Monday and then a nice further push down, which will then create that weekly wick retest of this area. Because you can see on the weekly it was resistance, 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 resistance. Previous support also. So we broke underneath, a little wick retest, which will be obviously potentially the daily pull, a further daily push back up, or a daily wick also, as well as a weekly wick, and then a 4 hour push back up into this area to then sell off. So all we're waiting for on this now to take the trade is somewhere in this area for the lower time frame. 30-minute looks the cleanest. As you can see, we've just shifted bullish, right? So having that prices shifted bullish, we're now waiting for price to give us something like this to shift bearish, so then we can enter on an engulf candle somewhere around this shift. But that's what we'll be looking for AUD NZD, and that is, I think that's the only pair so far that is as ready as this. Moving on to the next pair. Let me get rid of this. Moving on to the next pair, we have Euro GDP. Euro GDP has just come down to this major weekly support where you can see we've rejected it 2017, 2020, 2022, now 2024, we're here again. So playing off the probabilities, I can see that this is a major support. It's also a psychological level. So what can we expect? Well, we can expect a lot of people to start putting buy orders in the market here. And a lot of people will be looking at this, seeing, okay, price is not broken below. Let's put buy orders in, which is inevitable to push price up if that does happen, which you can see by this big fuck off wick. So we have a shift of structure, all right, the weekly shifted structure. We have a weekly morning star, a beautiful weekly morning star. We have price underneath this area of interest on the weekly, sort of a retest. If we did not shift structure here, this would be classed as a retest. But because we shifted structure, what I'm going to be looking for in the next coming week is the daily to come and fill this wick, to see a continuation of that bullish momentum to come up, test this area again before coming back to create a higher low. So we'll see this, something like this. But on the daily, that is going to look like, well, we're already here retesting the EMA. You can see it. You can see it. We're coming down, we're retesting the EMA, we're retesting the area of interest. On the 4 hour, we're already bullish still. So bullish on all time frames. I'm simply just waiting for a daily rejection. We don't have a daily rejection, so ideally what we'd want to see is a day hesitation here, then a daily engulf, and then that wick pullback obviously. But again, it's probabilities that might happen, it might not happen. Same as AUD NZD. It might give us an entry signal, it might not. As good as this looks, you have to be willing to let that trade go if it doesn't give you your confluences. So that's, it's always very simple. It's break and retest. But Euro GDP, that's what we're waiting for daily rejection. Next we have CAD JPY. CAD JPY, again, a weekly morning star, break above this area of interest. You can see it was massively respected by sellers, stopped all this bullish momentum, broken above, then massively respected by buyers and pushed price all the way up here. So now that we've broken above, we've had a doji above showing, okay, sellers are struggling to push price down, but buyers haven't got their full force yet. So we come down to the daily, which is where we're going to wait for that daily rejection. So we've come down, yeah, we've rejected, but we need our daily engulf candle to show that buyers as strong at this area. 4 hour, beautiful. You know, it's bearish and it's given us, it's already 4 hours given us a rejection. Morning star, beautiful. So that shows the 4 hours showing, okay, there's buying pressure here. So now what we're waiting to see on the 4 hour is a shift of structure. Okay, so price to push down further. Ideally, this is ideally what we want to see. The key thing you want to remember is not to set your expectations to, this is what I want to see. If this doesn't happen, then this is all, this has to happen. It might not. You know, you have to be open to the possibilities of whatever actually does happen. Because if you are placing so much significance on price pushing up, doing this, then you might be blinded. You might see, all right, there's a nice sell opportunity here. But if you were so focused on that buy, then you might have missed that. Obviously, in this case, that's not the case. But in general, you want to keep your mind in an objective state so you can perceive all these opportunities that might happen. So the 4 hour is showing us it's bearish, right? We want to see a shift. Ideally, we want to see price come back down, which will be a daily candle, a daily bearish candle, and then a bullish candle. Not bullish, a bullish engulfing on the daily, which will be that shift of structure. And then obviously that wick pullback, lower high, So as far as we're concerned, we're just waiting for a 4 hour to shift with a daily rejection candle. Next pair is GDP CAD. Am I looking to trade this? Yeah, okay. GDP CAD. This was last week's thing. So it does look a bit ugly, granted, at the beginning. But what you got to take into consideration, right? We could potentially see a breakout. Potentially, not guaranteed. But when you come on the daily, you can see how price is slowly getting squeezed up. You see it? We're making higher low, higher high, potentially to make a higher low now. And if we do see a break and retest, well, you got to take into consideration price has been faffing in here for how long? Look at this. Right, that is pissing me off. 43 days, 42 days it's been in this. So if we do see a break and retest, we're going to have all that momentum that price has been building up to then back the possibility of price pushing up and actually breaking out. But I'm going to highlight, this is exactly why we wait for a break and retest. Because if you were looking at that and you took the break of that, you would have taken a loss. That is why we wait for this. Why risk your money here when you can just wait for this? Yeah, you might have missed price and it gone all the way up, but then you can just look at it from a different perspective and be like, okay, well, price didn't retest straight away, but it might come back to retest for this to then take it up to here. But for this, we're going to be waiting to see if we get a breakout, which I need to set an alarm here. Beautiful. But that would be the weekly, a nice big bullish candle on the weekly. The reason I've got my target here as well is if you come left, you can see the weekly, that was that last major structure point, and then on the daily it was also the last major structure point where we saw a lot of sellers step in the market. So what if price were to push up again, you could expect sellers to step in the market in between this level and this area in general, but you're also looking at price coming into a psychological level where there'll be a lot of people taking off positions, adding positions at these round levels. Institutions, banks adding positions, taking off positions at these round levels. So you have to take those things into consideration. That's why we look for a psychological level in our area of interest, because it backs it even more. So for that, yeah, simple break and retest of a very ugly weekly consolidation. Next pair is GDP NZD. We broke above. We've had a bit of a doji on the weekly. So we could potentially have another week where we just come back to retest completely, or we could see price wick into this area and then push up to continue. And if that does play out, we'll see. We'll see price. We've broke, retest. We're already retesting now, but we don't have an engulf candle. The 4 hours bearish. So again, I'm not sure which pair it was, but what we'll be waiting to see is, you can see how we've shifted bearish, right? We're going to be wanting price to come back down again, create that bearish daily candle, and then a bullish engulfing on the daily, being that 4 hour shift of structure, a daily wick pullback being a 4 hour high low, to buy to go there then. Very simple. And if you, I didn't even try and do this, but you see how that would end up forming left, head, right shoulder. Beautiful, isn't it? And doesn't that pretty much look as similar as this? Left, head, right shoulder on that shift, and then bombaklaat. It's the same thing every single time. That's what makes it so boring, but so easy. You just have to have the discipline and patience to wait for the same thing to happen every single time. So that was, what was that? GNZD. Right, next pair is AUD NZD. This is another counter trend trade. So, even this one's confusing me a bit. There's a lot going on here. Weekly lower low, weekly lower high. We just shifted. Again, when you're forming a bias, you want to look at where is price on the weekly. Am I going to be trading the counter trend, or am I going to be trading with the trend? Well, at this point, you wouldn't want to take any trade going with the trend, because look how far down it is. It's all the way down here. It's below the EMA. It's at a major area of interest on the weekly. Like, look at a strong support here. Buyers stepped in, buyers stepped in, buyers stepped in, buyers stepped in here. They didn't even retest. So we could see, do we have a psychological level? And yes, we do. Psychological level right there. That price is just tapped into. So what we could be looking for is the weekly to make a pullback to retest previous structure, retest area of interest, retest EMA, retest this psychological level up here. There's three magnets that could pull price up if price gives us bullish price action on the daily. And obviously, if the weekly is going to have a pullback, the daily is going to shift structure to create that pullback. So what I'm waiting for is, we shifted here, as you can see, very, very small, but it did close below, creating this an elbow, a lower high. So all we're waiting for now is price to, what I could see potentially happening is bullish engulf above. Instead of a rejection, instead of price breaking and rejecting, a bullish engulf close back above with that wick pullback retesting to bombaklaat all the way back up. Because you can see the weekly hasn't been moving too iffy. When I mean iffy, I mean, look at these candles, price is just moving swiftly. It pulls back, it moves swiftly. It pulled back swiftly, pulled back swiftly. We could just see that 1 or 2 candle pullback to push all the way back up. And that would indicate that there was quick, strong buying pressure. And if there was quick, strong buying pressure, we'd see that the daily would just break and push back up, which would lead to no retest, being a engulf close above, quick little wick retest. These are how you got to adapt to how the market is actually moving and operating, because every pair is different. You see some pairs I'm waiting for price to break, come back and retest, whereas this pair I'm looking for that shift of structure, confluence at the lower low, at the weekly area of interest, after rejecting the psychological level, with the daily engulf, with the 4 hour high low, and then the 4 hour to potentially, well, the 4 hour ain't doing shit right So it looks dead as fuck. But if we were to break and retest, you could see we're in this consolidation, and if price were to break and retest above this, we have a very strong area on the 4 hour. That was strong resistance, which would then turn to strong support for us to take our buy off, as you can see right there. So you'd have multiple confirmations, and if price were to just hold off for a little, and that was to come down, and we'd see something like that, even more confluence. But next pair is another a bullish buy. This one we're looking to take up to here. You can see we were already bullish. This internal structure is bearish, and we're just simply looking for a wick retest to push up and continue this push. You know, you can see here we had big push to the upside, 3 big weeks of pushing up, and you know, we've had 2 big weeks. Obviously every moment is unique, okay? Don't get that twisted. Just because it happened here doesn't mean it's going to happen here, but the potential is there. This is how you got to look at the markets, man. You got to look at the markets as patterns, but as patterns with random outcomes, because this might happen. It happened once, it could happen again. If it does happen again, what would give me indication of it potentially happening again? Well, obviously we've had a big fucking push here, and what did price do? Big fucking push. Barely came back to retest, nowhere near the EMA, but pushed up. So could we see price push all the way up, come back to retest? This is a trade I would wait for an engulf candle and a price to come back and retest, because if the daily shows that this area is holding as buyers during the week, then we could potentially see price push up, wick retest, push up to continue this bullish momentum. And on the 4 hour, you can see we're bullish at this area. So if price were to make a bit of a deeper pullback for a day or two, to shift to then, well, let's just pretend price did this, then shifted, then bullish engulf. Again, it's the same thing over and over. Once you click your mind into the right space to be able to be patient and wait for the same thing, you'll make money. As soon as I started having a bit of patience and just waiting for the same thing, I started making money. Granted, I lose a lot of trades, but I'm still profitable because I look at it not just on an individual trade basis. So if I lose this, let's say this gave me an opportunity and I lost, I'll be like, oh no, I'm a loser. No, you're not a loser, because you know that over a certain amount of trades, you are going to be profitable. So you have to look at it as, oh no, I'm expecting to lose, but I'm also expecting for my winners to outweigh the losers, because you're going to have to lose one way or another. No, there's no technical analysis that you can do to never lose. So you might as well lose in the right mind than to lose in the incorrect state of mind. Because if you're in the right state of mind, losing just becomes easy. It's just a part. You know it's part of the game. You know there's going to be a win around the corner. So you just keep placing them. And next thing you know, shit, I'm up a good few percent now. It's that simple. But yeah, I'm just waiting for a retest. That's all I'm waiting for. And then Euro NZD. Again, this is even nicer. This has shifted the internal structure, and now we're just waiting for that either the next week to pull back and then reject, or a wick pullback to then push up. Because again, you can see price has made big pushes, just weeks on end it's gone up. And we could see that happen the exact same move happen again here. Like, look at that, to push up and push into a new higher high, or reject potentially. We don't know what's going to happen, but I would like to trade with the trend. We're above this area of interest. You can see how beautiful it would be. and how we could potentially see this trade play out over the next 2-3 weeks, because it took quite a few candles to get up here, and you could see price, take another, let's say it took another 3 candles to break to make it back here, another candle to reject, another candle to give us an engulf or so, and that'd be leading into next week. So I'm just keeping this because, again, from an objective perspective, anything can happen. So price could come back down in a day, 2 days, reject, give me the entry signal. But if I was looking at the market like, no, this is going to take a few days. This is going to take too many days. So next week I'll come back to this pair. And then I come back next week and it gave me a beautiful trade setup this week, because I thought I knew it was going to take this certain amount of days. You can never know anything, because it's traders who are causing price to do whatever it's doing. It's traders. It's me, you, everyone else who's placing trades, banks, institutions. All these people are placing trades trying to make money. All right, you're trying to make. No one places a trade to lose. Everyone's placing it because they believe they're buying at a low and selling at a high, because everyone's looking at different time frames. This looks beautiful for a buy on the daily, but if I go to a 5-minute time frame, well, this looks like it's starting to reverse. Am I wrong for saying that it's bullish? No. Is the person who's looking at the 5-minute wrong for saying it's going bearish? No. There's no right or wrong. There's only perspective. So change your perspective and change your results. And I'm pretty sure this is the last pair. Yeah, last pair is looking. This is probably looking the cleanest structure-wise. I'll be honest with you. So you can see we have a clear weekly high, pulling back. We've had a rejection candle on the weekly to a weekly area of interest. The daily is still bearish, but you can see the weekly EMA is coming into this area. So if we see the weekly EMA just shift up a little, and then we see the daily push back down, you can see it now, you can see it, can't you? To then create that lower high, to then give us a shift, retest, bomba clot. You can see it. I hope you can see it. 4 hours bullish, so the 4 hour needs to turn bearish to confirm that this pullback is over and that the daily is going to continue its bearish momentum. But we've already had an early indication from this morning star, 3 nice wicks indicating there's a lot of buying pressure at this level. So if price does come back into it, we're most likely going to see buyers step into the market again and start placing orders here. But as far as my market analysis goes for the week, that is it. Take that information, do what you will with it. Hope you make some money. Hope I make some money. I hope, yeah. We'll see, innit? Game of probabilities. This trade might give me a setup and stop me out. This is my favourite looking trade. But I've accepted that if I do place a trade, it might not play out. All of this price action does not eliminate the risk. It just means that there's a higher probability of price pushing down than there is up. But at the end of the day, you never know. As soon as you enter a trade, a bank could just place a big order and then fuck you up. But you didn't know the bank was going to place that order. So when you just have to look at everything from an objective standpoint, create a carefree state of mind, all right? You don't care about the outcome. You don't care if this trade plays out. You don't care if you get an opportunity. You don't care about any of the confluences. Is my strategy there? No? Okay, I don't care. You have to be able to detach from everything. Detach from what you think you know. Detach from previous experiences. When you learn to do these things, trading becomes effortless. money flows into your bank account effortlessly. And you'll soon break out the situation you're in. You know, because that's why everyone's trading and learning to trade, because you want a better situation out of life. So focus on your mindset, and that will make you the money. Technicals, you can learn technicals in a month. You know, you can refine them over the next couple of months. But what will really allow you to use the knowledge you've learned in a month is mastering your mind. So with that said, 8:51, done.